You are listening to the E2C Network, where the Auburn family speaks. War Eagle Auburn family, and welcome back to another edition of E2C Extra, where we sit down, we get together, and we talk about something within the world of the Auburn family spectrum. We're usually a little bit focused on sports here, and that's the way this episode will be this time. If you are under a rock somewhere, I don't know why you're there, because it's Auburn basketball season. You need to pay attention to this team, whether it's the way they're performing, the antics around it, the memes. There's just so many storylines around the 2021-22 Auburn basketball team, the program, the fans that we need to be discussing. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to be talking about the concept of what was formerly known as Pearlville. That's coming straight from the coach himself. He'd like for it not to be called that. We're going to reference it as that. And the students getting excited for basketball season. And then also a story within that story. So there's many layers to this. To do that on this episode, I've welcomed back someone to the show that we've had on previously to tell her Auburn story on our Auburn Roots series, Miss Allie Davison. Allie, welcome back.
Hey, War Eagle, thanks for having me. It's a whirlwind. Like, I can't believe last time we talked, we were like pre-football, and now we're like halfway through basketball. It's time flies, man.
It really does fly. And I think, we wish that football season would have flown a little bit faster the way it ended. But thankfully, we're here in basketball season, and it's going really well so far. Obviously, if we're
fingers crossed,
like if things are off in the future and people are listening to this, maybe things took a turn. I hope not. But
don't
right
jinx
now,
us. That's the rule number one of an Auburn fan, is you can't jinx it.
Knocking on every bit of wood on this desk right now, trying to reverse what I just did to us. I'm sorry, Auburn fans. But we're going to talk about something that you got involved with as students. But before we get there, I want to give you an opportunity to just kind of talk a little bit about your perspective of this basketball season, everything that's been going on around with it, just whatever you'd like to share about, from your point of view, the 2021-22 basketball season.
Yeah, it's almost hard to believe, but it also just seems so deserving, right? It just feels like the last couple of seasons, they were so close since the Final Four. I mean, getting there and just losing in such a heartbreaking way. And then COVID and Sharif Cooper having his issues and Isaac Okoro not being able to go and play, in a postseason. There's just all of these like what ifs surrounding Auburn basketball. And it just feels like the season is right. And that sounds so silly as an Auburn fan, because we tend to never believe that we deserve anything good coming our way. There's always something around the corner. But I think that's the peacock movement, right? For once, I am just like proud, and feel like this team and what Bruce has done is just so deserving. And with that, comes a lot of pressure, as we saw against Missouri. The target's huge. Everyone is going to play their best basketball against us from now until, fingers crossed, New Orleans in the Final Four. And that's going to be a big wake-up call, because Auburn's never been in this position before. The target tends to be on our back, but it just seems this year there's a lot of guns and eyes pointed our way from beat writers who, I think one of them called us the most sensitive Twitter fan base, but I'd almost like to argue beat writers are the most sensitive group for one particular SEC school. But yeah, it just seems like everything that's been happening the last few seasons is just like finally coming to fruition. Mm-hmm. And it's just a really fun feeling. And I just hope Auburn fans take it for what it is and stop looking in the future at, oh my God, is Bruce going to leave? Oh my God, are we going to get a basketball facility? Just enjoy the moment. There's always going to be outside noise. And, whatever happens after this season. I don't think it will, but whatever happens, and just enjoy the ride that we're on, because it's going to be over. I mean, we're already, like we said, halfway through, which is nuts. The SEC tournament's like a month away. Mm-hmm. So I'm pumped, and I'm, in full on obnoxious Auburn fan mode to anyone I talk to. So
yeah, I'm having to check myself. I'm playing basketball the other night, little rec league over there, and I'm having to like contain myself, because I'm wearing full Auburn gear, and they obviously know I'm an Auburn fan, and they just tell us like, when is he going to bring it up? When is he's going to talk about Auburn being number one? And I contained myself. So it's one of those things that the peacock culture that's developing on Auburn social media, you almost have to kind of keep it over there and not bring it into real life too much, because then you're going to just start annoying people. But like you said, embrace this moment, and try not to look too far into the future. Enjoy it is for what it is at this moment. I mean, I remember a time, and I'm sure you do, when that magical run in Bruce's first year in the SEC tournament, KT Harrell knocking down that shot with seconds left against LSU.
Unreal.
That seemed like the highest point at the time that we'd ever reached.
Yeah.
Few years later, we're going to the Final Four. Who'd have thought it could get any better than this? And now Bruce Pearl is again taken this little basketball program who has a history, who has great moments, and who has great players and coaches, but just risen it to heights that we never thought that we could reach. And it's just, I was thinking about this the other day, my little adolescent self, watching this basketball program, thinking I could play for it someday. And like, wow, we have a great basketball program. And then we do as a history, but then you kind of know over time with Barbie and Lebo and all that stuff, what happened. And it's just, you need to take a step back, as you said, and kind of really appreciate what's going on right now within the team, but also the fan base as a whole. So tell me your thoughts on the whole Auburn meme culture. I know you said you're loving it, but what do you think about all that? Or have you participated in the memes at all?
Yeah, I'm not a memer. For a long time, up until this past weekend, I really didn't think people would argue otherwise, but I didn't really think I was part of Auburn Twitter. I was just, some chick who was a former reporter that just kind of got sucked in when I was able to talk about being an Auburn fan instead of pretending I wasn't for a long time. But it's so fun. I mean, it's the good of social media, right? And people can say how obnoxious, how annoying, but I think we've seen a lot of tweets, from national media. It's like, no one is having more fun than this Auburn basketball team and this Auburn fan base in the entire country. And I'd argue the same. I mean, it is just so awesome to see thousands of people come on Twitter, and join hearing about it. I have so many friends who are like, I want to join Twitter so I can see all of this. And that's just awesome, right? It just brings a new level to a fan base that, has seen highs and it's seen lows. And, football season was rough to say the least. Postseason was rough to say the least. And it's just awesome, to see people have fun. And I think people are missing that whole point is this is supposed to be fun. This is not supposed to be something so serious. And I think Bruce is the best ambassador for that. I mean, he is a very serious guy. You could see him at the Missouri game that he was less than pleased with what had happened, but he also is just embracing everything that this fan base is throwing at his team. Right. And the players are recognizing it too. I mean, back in my day, social media was just getting there. You could tweet something and it maybe get 30 likes. And now, every single basketball player is on Twitter, on Instagram, and is seeing the hype. And that just feeds into them wanting to perform better on the court. So I think it's just a cool movement that social media, it's the best of social media, which is hard to find.
Yeah. And you've seen stories like Murray State embracing and realizing, listen, we can make an ally in this.
Exactly.
And so that's the best part about this is people that realize, okay, it's all a goof. It's a gag. Have fun with it. Don't take it so hard. You even saw Missouri, post their post-game tweet. We know what's coming. Yeah. And it's just,
and I do feel bad. I will say I've been a social media manager in sports. It is a brutal place to be. Let me tell you, it is not fun getting your inbox flooded, but I will say, those are probably the best engagement numbers that a lot of these teams have had. So, you at least can go to your boss and say, we may have lost, but we're at least bringing in some revenue and engagement based on all these clicks and memes. So double-edged sword, but yeah, it's just fun. And I think as it goes, depending on the school, now, do I ever foresee Alabama tweeting something witty and funny? Absolutely not. Because I think they're dealing with enough of their basketball program going over there that I don't see a social media manager embracing the culture. But a team like Murray State, who has nothing to lose, is awesome to see, right? And to see a player kind of start that movement is even crazy. I mean, Murray State had still not posted the score. It was a big issue. And, a player finally was like, you know what, I'm done. Let's do it. And now they're attacking any team Murray State plays and wins against. So yeah, it's been awesome to see. And it's so organic, which I think is also really cool, right? It's just there was not a huddle. There wasn't a media press release. There wasn't Auburn Athletics saying, okay, everyone, we're going to start doing this. It just started from a couple of people and it's launched into something I don't even think they realized it could be.
No, we've had a conversation with @AuburnMemes on Twitter, and he kind of expressed the same thing. He's like, I know people attach me to this. This isn't me. This is me just helping it along, So that's the thing is it's a very organic thing, as you said, that's just kind of grown. And it just shows the passion of the Auburn fan base. And I've long said that if any professional team wants to have their numbers boosted, you need to attach Auburn to you somehow. War Tampa took that on. War Ready now took that on. And you see what happens with that. Even though they haven't done well, we still flock over there. So if you want some engagement, get the Auburn fan base endeared toward you. And that's what's going to happen. You're gonna
Absolutely.
Get engagement. Let's move into talking about passion. The students. My goodness. I thought we were passionate when we were students, Allie.
Yeah.
This has gone to a new level. And I was there that night to document some of this. We did live videos and stuff like that. People can watch that on the YouTube channel. Just, I didn't even know what to expect. I mean, it's somewhere between Woodstock and just an Auburn basketball game is what happened. And it was an absolute crazy, beautiful mess all at the same time. And what we're talking about is what was formerly known as Pearlville. Coach Pearl has since said he does not want it called that. They will fix that. They will make the situation better. But what happened is students congregated and said, we're going to start camping out, to the point where a couch is being brought out into the green space. And they're 24 hours almost from game time doing this in what were going to be freezing temperatures that night. So I want you to just share your thoughts about all that after I've kind of set the table for you. But just the whole concept of the thing formerly known as Pearlville.
Yeah, I still really like Pearlville, and I get where Bruce is saying, and I think he just doesn't want it to be attached to him because it's not about him. But eventually he's going to have to realize none of this is possible without him. And when I spoke to him, like I said that, like, none of anything that's happening would be possible without you. And I hope he starts to embrace that. And, he's such a humble guy that I totally get it. But formerly known as Pearlville, the leader of the pack, he can decide the name. But yeah, I mean, I'm so jealous. There's really no other words to describe it. I know 10 years ago when I was a freshman, I think we went like 4-20. It was miserable. I mean, you could literally walk in 5 minutes against Kentucky and maybe get a second row seat, right? Since everyone's there to see Kentucky, you could still walk in 5 minutes before and get a great seat in the jungle. And I would have been camping out. I know me and my friends would have been camping out. It's just such an insane experience. You see programs like Duke who do it, and it just always looks so like a memory that you're going to tell your kids 50 years from now, right? And I think that's kind of what happened. Started with me saying, you know what, these kids are out there 24 hours before. I know Bruce is going to bring food out. I know, Auburn's going to take care of them to an extent, but overnight's a long night, and I need Bruce and those boys in the athletic department to be focusing on what they need to be doing tomorrow, and that's get a W. And so I just, saw kids already posting up. You said about 24 hours before, and I was just sitting here in my room at work and just kind of scrolling through Twitter. And I was like, man, it would have been nice to have $15 to go over to Village Dining had I been knowing I was going to have a 24-hour day camp. And I tweeted out, if you're there, send a pic. I wanted to prove that you were out there, and, I'll Venmo you some money. And for the next 48 hours, it was unlike anything I had ever been a part of before. And again, just the great of social media that kind of took over and let it become a life of its own, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. It's an absolutely great thing that you did, kind of starting from just trying to give somebody something to eat, for having the passion for representing you in a sense, since you couldn't be there and you never got the opportunity to do something like that. I remember those days walking in just up to the gates 5 minutes before tip off and being like, oh, where do I want to sit? I can sit mid court.
Exactly.
Fine.
And that's a luxury. I will say, I don't take that for granted, because I did get to see some good games, right. Very, not having to cut class, but yeah, I mean, I just know how jealous I am. And again, if I was in those kids' positions, knowing I was 25 degrees, my family 6 hours away, I'm sure a lot of other kids in that line were, so their parents could just drop them off meals to help. And so it really was just totally organic. I really thought it would end up being like $150, maybe 200 if, we had some other people wanting to donate or some Venmo names. And that was just going to be it. And I was just going to go about my easy Friday night that I was hoping for, prepping for a big Saturday with the game. And I was greatly mistaken. That was me underestimating the power of Auburn Twitter. And I think that's, the memes have been great. It's easy to send a meme. It's not easy to donate. We had one person donate $2,000 to the fund. And I think that's what makes this just so different is, it's fun and all fun and games on social media, but this was just so much bigger. And once we realized we weren't going to be able to give $14,000 to students, I knew immediately I wanted to do the Out Live Foundation for Bruce. It's a foundation that means near and dear to my heart. I know it's very near and dear to the Pearl family and the board of trustees. And I knew as soon as that, that's where I wanted it to go. And people donated it because of that, right? Like I made it very clear that we were done donating money. There's only so many pizzas and donuts we can buy in 12 hours, but people were then donating. Like the $2,000 one came after all of that and said, I want to put this to AE2 Live. Thanks so much for doing this. And I think that was the coolest part is people didn't stop. They really just kept on going once, that decision was pretty clear on where the extra money was going.
Hey, Auburn fans, I want to take a quick timeout from this episode to bring your attention to something very special. Here at the E2C Network, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best content for Auburn fans out there. And best of all, it's free to you. But just because it's free doesn't mean there aren't costs, especially when you have a library of hundreds of podcasts, videos, blogs, and more. Many of you have reached out and asked how you can support this network in the past. Well, now I have your answer. It's called the E2C Network Booster Club over at patreon.com/E2C Network. There you'll find a membership monthly reward system where you can sign up for as little as $1 and get different perks at different tiers. Some of those perks include things such as apparel, eligibility to join us on future podcasts, recognition as an E2C Network booster, exclusive communications, and bonus content that is available nowhere else. If you love this network and want to help us keep producing podcasts like this one, please head on over to patreon.com/E2C Network to join the E2C Network Booster Club. You can also get there by going to our website, e2cnetwork.com/support. Whether you decide to join or not, we are still so appreciative that you would support us by just listening and being here, because each and every one of you is part of our E2C Network family. Well, that's it. Timeout's over. Let's get back into the episode. We brought up the meme culture a lot, and look, this is just the exact same thing. Somebody just took a step and just did something on their own, and look what happened. This beautiful thing. And I got to tell you, Allie, that here's the great thing, and I know you know this, and I'm just telling this for the listeners here. There were tons of people out there helping. The wheelchair basketball showed up that night, and we're handing out biscuits. I mean, the amount of times I saw biscuits flying through the air, like just being thrown to students reaching their hands up, somebody climbing a light pole to grab one out of the air too. It was just crazy, and it was a great way to see, that old saying, it takes a village. And it's the loveliest village on the plains. Everybody coming together to help the students get through the night to create this atmosphere that they had done. And one of the best moments I remember, I was sitting in my car after I was trying to get a break from the cold, and I saw a tweet from you, however many pizzas are on the way. I'm like, that is incredible. Yeah. Absolutely incredible.
Domino's had to do, I think it was 2 pickup trucks, because it was 30 large pies that they stuck in their backseat of the truck to drop off. And sure, I took the step. I can't really say that I didn't take the step, but I definitely, beyond that, I was just the collector and the distributor. There were so many people. I was in Atlanta. I thought about driving over once I realized this thing was once we had $2,000 in the first 35 minutes, I was like, okay, I might need to make a little trip over to Auburn. But there were so many people that stepped up. I mean, I think we bought out the entire hand warmers in, a 15-mile radius of Auburn. People were driving in from Johnson City and Nashville, and they were stopping to get hand warmers for me. We had people go to Sam's Club for snacks. I mean, it was such a group effort, and so many people willing to step up and show up at 6 o'clock to make sure the coffee and the hot chocolate were delivered and all set up for the students. I mean, there was just so many people that did the heavy lifting on this. That I hate taking credit for it. And I hate kind of being the face of this movement, because it really wasn't me. But it really just warmed my heart, and I could tear up and get goosebumps just thinking about it. Auburn means so much to so many people, and it's cheesy, and the saying Auburn family gets ridiculed and laughed at, and sure, to an extent, it could ooze a little cheese sometimes, but right. I think that night and this weekend just is a culmination of what that truly means to a lot of people, whether you're a student, an alumni, a fan, your granddad played back in the day. I had so many people be like, oh my God, my dad was on the basketball team, 45 years ago. It's just that's what the Auburn family is about. And it was just really, really cool to be a very, very, very small part of something that I think will go down in Auburn Twitter history for being a crazy, crazy weekend.
Oh, forget Auburn Twitter history, just Auburn history. I will never forget this moment. And just like you, I actually made the jump and traveled down there to see it. I was sitting here in this office just watching what was starting to unfold. I was like, can I miss this? I don't know that I can miss this. And I had to convince the wife to let me skip out on part of a family event I was supposed to be at. Because I cannot not be a part of this, or at least see it from my own eyes. And like you said, it's more than just the students. It's more than just the alumni. It's the whole encompassing thing of what happened. on that weekend, and it finally felt like basketball took a step up to the level of football, where it's an event more than just a game. And that's what I've been longing to see for this Auburn family, for this basketball program, is where this became a must-see event, even if you can in the game. I went to Auburn, not playing. I didn't have a ticket. I ended up getting into the game. Thank you again to those fans that saw me sitting there and wondering if I was getting in or not. But I was just happy to be there to see those students, to see the fruits of your labor and those that helped you with it. And by the way, if we're going to get Pearl to embrace Pearlville, we got to get you to embrace taking the face of this.
Yeah, no, I guess I know. See, I need to take my own advice on Pearl, but yeah, you know, it really is unbelievable. And I know people can say, well, all the money should have went to, you know, charity and all of this. And, you know, we made a donation to the Kentucky Cancer Foundation, a very similar foundation of Out Live, which was also really cool, you know, and goes beyond sports and goes beyond rivalries, especially after the hard L that the state of Kentucky has taken from that loss. We still were, you know, Auburn Twitter was more than happy to give money to something beyond sports. But it started with the students, and I don't want that to get lost in this message. Yes, the foundation and the charity donations is beyond anything anyone could have expected. I mean, $7,900 to a foundation in 24 hours off Twitter is nuts, right? And then another 600 to the UK foundation. But it started with the students, and that's like what means so much to me, is like beyond, we didn't know how much money we were going to get, and people were donating because they wanted to help the students, right? And so I think that's what you're saying is kind of made it into an event and made it into something that's going to continue from now on. I mean, kids are going to be camping out for the rest of the season. There's a lot of 1 p.m. games coming up. I have no doubt there's going to be kids camping out this Friday for Oklahoma. And that's just really cool to see happen, again, so organically. And the kids were super thankful. I mean, we had guys sending us their spot in the jungle being like, thank you for helping us make it. Like, we're running on sugar and fumes and donuts from Krispy Kreme, but it is worth it to get the seat. And that's what matters, right? Like, the charity is great, and that's an added bonus, and that's more than anyone could have expected. But the fact that the students are having fun and enjoying it and making those memories, I think should make everyone happy.
And that's the thing is, you know, I went to bed that night expecting to come back out early in the morning to see students just passed out, barely alive. And, you know, some of them were probably still napping a little bit. But I walked up to a dance party happening and, you know, food still coming in. And I'm like, on what planet did you guys get your energy? Like, I'd like to, I camped out for the Iron Bowl of 2013. And I while that was exciting, it was nowhere near this level of anticipation and excitement outside of it. So yes, the credit goes to the students. This doesn't happen without someone deciding, a few people deciding, I'm going to camp out because this is how excited I am for this weekend and for this game. And it gave you and others the opportunity to show the love of the Auburn family. And I just, you know, I don't, the numbers are not that important, but I'd like to know, do you have kind of a ballpark of how much was raised in particular areas that people can know about?
Yeah. So I'm very bad at math, but I tried, and I got some of my CPA friends in to help me make sure that I was doing all the math right. It was about 4,200 to students. And that was coffee, donuts, hand warmers. I think we bought like $1,000 worth of hand warmers, which was the best thing the students could have asked for. They said it was beyond cold. And then we did about 600 to the UK Markey Foundation, which is Kentucky's Cancer Foundation. And then it's going to be about, I think it's 7,900. I have to go look at the cashier's check, which is terrifying to be carrying around until I deliver it to Auburn. But it was about 7,900 to versus Out Live Foundation.
Wow. That's an amazing amount right there. And this is even before that game actually happens.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing.
Let me tell you what, I was sweating because, you know, had we lost, it still would have been cool, right? It still would have been something fun that'll go down. But man, I was like, oh God, my Twitter DMs are about to be annihilated of Kentucky fans laughing and Alabama fans joking. And a win just kind of like cemented everything. And then following a number one, and then, you know, they announced number one, and 3 minutes later, Bruce acknowledged. Now I had talked to him over the weekend, and like the whole coaching staff knew what was going on.